Hi everyone, I'm Kevin, and this is HFX by Bike, a channel all about getting around Halifax by bike. The Allan-Oak Bikeway serves as an analog for Quinpool Road between Connaught and Windsor for bikes moving east-west within the west end of the Halifax Peninsula. It has a single sign-based mode filter at the intersection with Oxford and various traffic calming measures in place east of that intersection. The bikeway directly connects to the Windsor Street painted bike lanes to the east and indirectly to the Vernon Bikeway via the Quinpool Centre. There's no connecting bike infrastructure on the other side of the bikeway, although there are two city-recommended roads along several non-bikeway local streets that lead to the Bears Road multi-use path. There are a few issues that come up in using the bikeway that make it a little bit less convenient and less safe than it otherwise could be. The first issue is that the bikeway doesn't have a defined function on its western side, it just kind of fizzles out. The bikeway itself may need specific design elements added to it to make connecting to the rest of the network function, and it's worthwhile to think about them as we're figuring out what we want the bikeway to do. The second issue is how often the bikeway loses priority. Of the 6 local streets the bikeway intersects with, it loses or splits priority with half of them. That's a weird design choice for something designed to give priority to bikes, but it's something that's pretty easy to fix. The last issue is, you guessed it, cars. For most of the day, the Allan-Oak Bikeway only has 1 or 2 cars traveling it at any given time. At rush hour though, it can become literally clogged with cars trying to rat run the bikeway to skip traffic on Quinpool. That's obviously not ideal, so we should update the design to make driving along the bikeway unworkable at length. Let's try to map out some solutions. Okay, so the first thing we should do is figure out what we want the bikeway to do. The eastern side is fine in that sense because it already connects to 2 other parts of the bike network. The western edge of the bikeway connects to 1 major road without any bike infrastructure and 2 routes along local streets recommended by the city. The recommended route running north along Elm and Connolly and south along Beach is a good candidate to be upgraded into its own west end bikeway. This would best be integrated by adding a small roundabout at each of the intersections at Elm and Beach. We already do something similar in the north end bikeway, and this would allow non-stop movement by bikes moving between the 2 bikeways. So that one's pretty simple. Facilitating either the recommended route along 3rd Street or connecting to hypothetical bike lanes on Connaught would require a facilitated crossing of Connaught in both directions. This would probably take the form of a new half signal and pedestrian crossing at the Connaught-Oak intersection, as well as an expanded pedestrian and bike waiting space in the median. Even without installing bike lanes the full length of Connaught, there would still be a need for a mini bidirectional lane on the western side of Connaught to allow for movement in both directions to get to and from 3rd Street. One of these solutions is obviously a lot easier to implement than the other, but I think they're both viable in terms of making the western side of the bikeway more useful and the bikeway as a whole better. Okay, so the bikeway now has a defined purpose. Let's give bikes a little bit more priority on their own bikeway. The bikeway loses priority to Beach and Klein and has a 4-way stop with Harvard. The dead simple fix here is just to switch the orientation of the stop signs at Beach and Klein and remove the stop sign on the bikeway where it intersects with Harvard. These changes would allow for continuous movement across the entire bikeway, save for the mandatory stop at the half signal at Oxford. These kinds of changes could probably be made in an afternoon at virtually no cost. Now that we have a bikeway with good functionality and full priority for bikes, we need to think about how to keep cars off of it to avoid traffic making it less safe and less convenient for cyclists and pedestrians to use. The existing configuration has frequent rush hour congestion east of Oxford. The city already has plans to install a diagonal diverter at the Allen-Harvard intersection to make this route less useful for drivers. This design would force cars moving along the bikeway in either direction to divert onto Harvard, heading towards Quinpool if moving west or Chebucto if moving east. Meanwhile, bikes can travel the full distance of the bikeway unimpeded. I think the diverter will probably work, although it leaves open the possibility of cars still using the bikeway and just heading north along Harvard to reach Chebucto. It's less convenient than using Oxford due to the lack of traffic lights, but the option is still there. A cheaper option would be to forgo the diverter and instead close off Oak to car through traffic at Monastery, as has already been done at Yukon and Yale on the same street. This could be done on an interim basis with just some flex posts, and so it could be practically free. It would, however, be a bit more disruptive to local traffic. Just from my own experience, I'm not sure that the area west of Oxford experiences the same kind of rush hour rat running, but if it does, then adding a diverter to the intersection of Klein, 1 block west of Oxford, would probably solve that problem. Those are a few pretty straightforward ways to fix the Allan-Oak Bikeway. Let me know what improvements you'd want to see implemented. As always, thanks for watching, and see you next time.